by asking this question, you're going to get a couple of things. One is antler and age restrictions. Tell me how they manage their property. What's their minimum? If their minimum is kind of typical as 130 or 135, the higher their restrictions are as far as their, antlers go, then probably the better chances are of you killing that 170, 180 inch buck.
Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 272. Jason Selman, booking your next whitetail outfitter, the Red Flags. Support for the Big Buck Registry and the Deer Hunt Podcast comes from Rackology. Everything you need in one bag. Now available at Rural King and Orslin Farm and Home storefronts. Or online at www.rackology.org. Quiet Cat, the all-terrain electric bicycle. Visit quietcat.com. That's QUIETKAT.com and use the discount code BIGBUCK15 to secure 15% off your next Quiet Cat purchase. Covert scouting cameras, remote cameras for hunting, wildlife, and security, and Big Buck merch. You can get cool, high-quality Big Buck t-shirts, long-sleeve t-shirts, and hoodies. And show support for this podcast by visiting www.bigbuckregistry.com/MERCH. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey, this is JC Hall from On the Road and Open Season TV, and you're listening to one of my favorite podcasts, the Big Buck Registry.
This is Laura Zara from Naked and Afraid, and you're about to listen to my favorite podcast, Big Buck Registry.
Hey guys, this is Seth Perkins from Bearded Butcher Blend Seasoning, and you're listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Big Buck Registry.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, fellow predators. My name is Jay, and thank you for tuning in to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. For Dusty Phillips and Jim Keller and the entire staff here at the Big Buck Registry, welcome to this week's show. There are a couple things I'd like you to do for us if you could. If you would, please check us out on iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review. With your help, we're going to try and push this show up the iTunes charts. I know we have a lot of listeners out there, and I need you to take some action. I need you to leave a review and subscribe to the show. If you do subscribe, that'll give you access and notification each and every week that a new show is released. You can also access this show in its entirety on YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. It's all right there for you to access on demand at your fingertips. Regarding the harness program, we have an ample supply of harnesses to give away from our volunteer donors. If you're in need of a full-body harness, please send an email to jay@bigbuckregistry.com. So you want to book a whitetail hunt with an outfitter, but you don't know exactly where to start. Maybe this is your first time, or maybe you're rebounding from a horrible experience and you're attempting not to repeat. With booking season in full swing, we thought we should explore the do's and don'ts with Jason Selman of Hero Shot Outfitters. What questions should you ask? What are the red flags? What should you expect to get when you spend your hard-earned money? And when should you run away and go on to the next outfitter? We explore all this and more with Jason so that you can avoid making big mistakes and ensure a quality experience when booking your next whitetail adventure with an outfitter. We'll get into our entire interview with Jason Selman in just one moment, but before we do, let's hear from our friends at Rackology and Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Hey, it's Eric Fitzgerald here with Rackology. Wanted to visit you briefly about one of the most exciting products that we got in the market with Rackology. This is our food plot fertilizer. You can supplement your deer right through your food plot with this product. This is not your normal NPK. This has got so many goodies in this bag. Basically what it does is it makes your soil work for you so you can get by with just using fertilizer like this and not a lot of synthetics. If you want a good food plot and you want deer coming in and healthy plants, look at the food plot fertilizer through Rackology. Check us out at rackology.org. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, this is Matt Duff with Major League Bowhunter. Now here's Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Our first story this week
California looks to enlist hunters in wildlife conservation push. This story is from the Fox News website and was reported by Bradford Betts. Put down the vape pens, cancel Zumba classes, and pick up a rifle. California is encouraging its residents to go out and hunt in an effort to rebrand the declining pastime. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife said Thursday it's partnering with other state and federal agencies to address barriers and opportunities to hunting and fishing in the state. Though their image for urban parts of the country suggests otherwise, hunters play an essential role in wildlife conservation. Since 1937, hunters have contributed more than $14 billion to the conservation of wildlife. But in the last 5 decades, the number of Americans over the age of 16 who hunt has dropped by half, according to the 2016 U.S. Fish and Wildlife Survey. Fish and Wildlife Director Charlton H. Bonham said the agency has hired a task force to help change the public's perception of hunting and encourage people to get outdoors and enjoy California's wild places. California's latest state attempting to reach younger generations. Last month, a hunter recruiter for the Georgia Wildlife Federation told the Wall Street Journal, "Earthy crunchy aligns very well with deer hunting." Deadly zombie deer disease could possibly spread to humans, experts warn. This story is from the Fox News website and is reported by Madeline Farber. A deadly disease that has affected the deer population in an estimated 24 states and 2 Canadian provinces could eventually spread and infect humans, experts warn. Speaking at the Minnesota State Capitol last week, experts from the University of Minnesota told lawmakers of the dangers of chronic wasting disease, or what the U.S. Geological Survey describes as a fatal neurological illness occurring in North American cervids, which are members of the deer family, including white-tailed deer, mule deer, elk, and moose. Currently, there are no vaccines or treatments available for the disease, which scientists say spreads directly through animal-to-animal contact, but also indirectly through contaminated drinking water or food. While there have been no reported cases of CWD in people, Michael Osterholm, the director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, told lawmakers that the disease should be treated as a public health issue, claiming human cases of CWD will likely be documented in the years ahead. It is possible that the number of human cases will be substantial and will not be isolated events, he said, in part according to the Twin Cities Pioneer Press. If Stephen King could write an infectious disease novel, he would write about prions like this, he added. Osterholm likened CWD to mad cow disease, which public health officials and those in the beef industry once did not think could infect people. It has since been confirmed that a cureless variant of mad cow, called Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, can adversely impact humans. CWD and Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease belong to the same family of diseases known as prion diseases, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. CWD was first detected in captive deer in the late 1960s, the CDC said. Symptoms of the disease include drooling, stumbling, lack of coordination, lack of fear of people, aggression, and listlessness, which explains the quote-unquote zombie deer disease nickname. The symptoms are a result of malformed prion that kills neurons in the infected animal's brain, the University of Minnesota explains. Osterholm echoed the CDC when warning the disease could potentially spread to humans in the future. Doctor says cure for CWD has been found. This story is from the bowhunting.com website and is reported by Brody Swisher. There's not a hotter topic in the deer hunting community these days than chronic wasting disease. CWD is a root of calm discussions, hot-tempered debates about everywhere you look. Some say it's an out-of-control epidemic that's sweeping the country, while others say it's nothing more than nature doing what nature does. The bottom line is CWD and the impact it has on the future of deer hunting is a growing concern. More and more states are discovering new cases of CWD every year. That's why a recent video released by the Unified Sportsmen of Pennsylvania has been creating a lot of attention in the last week. The video states that a cure for CWD has been found. Dr. Frank Bastian of LSU's Department of Agriculture believes the disease is caused by a previously undiscovered species of bacteria called spiroplasma, not prions. Bastian's team is working on developing a 3-stage plan of attack, beginning in the first year with a diagnostic kit that would allow hunters to immediately test deer for the disease in the field. The ultimate goal is to develop a vaccine and cure for deer and elk in the wild. It's honestly a very bold statement, and the skeptics have shown up in a hurry. But what if these guys are onto something? What if this 3-stage approach to curing CWD will actually work? And beyond the deer herd, what if it could actually cure greater diseases and health concerns like Alzheimer's, as claims are being made? For a closer look at what Dr. John Evelyn had to say regarding a cure for CWD in a recent press conference in Pennsylvania,
please check the Big Buck Registry Facebook pages for the link. The group seems to have gathered some support from local groups in Pennsylvania, but it's a different story when it comes to support from where it may matter the most, the Pennsylvania Game Commission. The commission responded with a skeptical statement saying decades of research have provided abundant evidence that prions are the infectious agent of CWD. The commission went on to say that while alternative theories exist, they have not been thoroughly researched. Other sources say that no one has yet to replicate the research mentioned above, nor does any wildlife agency accept the bacteria theory. This ultimately could be the biggest hurdle for Dr. Bastian's team. Without replication, does Bastian even have a solid, sound scientific foundation? That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. Special thanks to Daniel Applebaum, Dawn Keller, John Geis, and T.R. Walters for leads on stories this week. For links to the stories featured this week, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Thanks to Jim Keller for the Deer News. Without further ado, here is Jason Selman from Hero Shot Outfitters. Jason Selman, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, Jay. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Hey, you know what? It's that time of year. It's that time of year where you got to start thinking about booking your hunts, right, for 2019.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely time. You know, if you haven't started planning yet, you may be a little behind the curve, but there's definitely some great opportunities still out there.
I think a lot of guys and gals think about their hunt kind of mid-season, the prior year, generally speaking. Like it's on their radar. And then as the new year changes over, you start to think about it more. And this is the time where I think you got to get serious.
Yeah, I definitely agree, Jay. You know, it just kind of seems that, you know, as you're in the whitetail season, you're talking to friends and you're seeing friends on, you know, social media, you know, killing big deer in other places. And you kind of get that, I'd like to go hunt there. I'd like to try a different state. And, you know, it kind of gets in the forefront of your mind. And then you have the hustle and bustle of the holidays. And once kind of the new year turns, you know, it's kind of time to start planning and, you know, kind of putting the pieces together to plan that hunt for the fall.
Gotcha. All right. So we've established that. Jason, tell me about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? What makes you an authority to discuss this kind of concept so that we can walk people through when it's time and what do you got to look out for when you're starting to think about booking your outfitter for this year?
I started outfitting just probably 3 or 4 years ago. But I'd like to say that I've been hunting and been in the woods since I could fit in a backpack, and was fortunate enough to have a father and grandfather that kind of kept that fire in my belly burning at a very, very young age and kept me involved in the outdoors. And, you know, I kind of hit the ground running with it. So been fortunate enough to, you know, hunt a lot of different states, both private, public, and even outfitted hunts for sure. Grew up, you know, for the most part in the Middle Tennessee area. And then my time in the military kind of took me to a few different places and ended up landing here in West Central Illinois, you know, right here at the Golden Triangle, Adams Pike, and Brown County, where I run my outfitting business today. So logged a lot of miles in the woods, both, you know, hunting, you know, predominantly whitetails, but other species as well. And predominantly, you know, archery hunting, as well as have been on those, you know, those outfitted hunts and have, you know, been through this process. I've been on the other side where, you know, I've been scratching my head, calling outfitters, talking to them, emailing them, researching them. You know, I remember the days when I was a youngster and you get, you know, Deer and Deer Hunter magazine or Bow Hunter magazine, and you look at the back and there was your kind of list of outfitters to go from. And anymore with social media, you know, you kind of have everything right at your fingertips, you know, social media and, you know, of course, the internet, you know, to kind of look at your, you know, your options of where you want to go.
All right. So you've got a passion for this type of stuff, just like we all do. And certainly being in the business makes you an established authority on outfitting. Now, at this time of year, we got to start thinking about this stuff, as we discussed. But to me, this is probably one of those shows that's going to be good for the person that's never booked an outfitter, the person that has booked an outfitter and has had a really bad experience or just not a great experience. And maybe for some of those people that have had and booked a good experience and got a good experience but weren't quite sure why it was so well planned out. So you might be able to identify some of the things. That in a nutshell, what's the first thing that comes to mind or that we should be thinking about when you're planning an outfitter hunt anywhere?
Well, I think that the first thing it has to be, what do I want to hunt? What am I going after? Whether that's whitetail, mule deer, elk, bear. I think you have to kind of identify that, kind of going away from the whitetail a little bit. If you're looking to do a Western hunt or some of those where, you have lotteries for your permits and stuff of that nature where you have to be a little bit proactive on them versus, a lot of your whitetail states, here like we are in the Midwest where you can buy your tags, for the most part over the counter. I think, right now you have to identify where you want to go, what you want to hunt, and the amount of time that you have, to book that hunt, as far as, time away from work. It seems like right now is the time just because, a lot of people, how their schedules fall, they got to put in for vacation time and they normally have to do that, several months in advance.
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, these things you have to plan ahead. If you have a job that is demanding of your time, that's all things that have to come into play. Getting into, do you want a hardcore hunt or do you want a luxury hunt, right? Like a getaway kind of thing. Which should we be thinking about, or what are we going to cover today? If you want a luxury hunt and you want to stay in a beautiful cabin and drink the finest scotches and wines, that's one thing. But I can tell you that for me, I could care less about that. My guess is that most of our listeners could care less about that too.
Yeah. So I'd probably, definitely that hardcore hunt, when I would be asking my questions, personally to an outfitter or things I got to look at, probably the food and the lodging are going to be, kind of down my, I guess, checklist. I want to know, how to manage their property, that sort of thing.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into all that stuff. All right. So this is really the time of year to start planning you can start planning for your vacations, when you're going to take them, and then you have to decide where you're going to go. I guess for the purposes of this episode, let's try to focus on just the whitetail aspect. We're not going to talk about elk. We're not going to talk about antelope. We're not going to talk about mule deer. Maybe we can do that in another show. But just because whitetail is such a huge piece of this puzzle, and that's something we talk about the most, what should we start thinking about this time of year to book your whitetail hunt, and where should we start looking for those whitetail hunts?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, identify where, if I'm looking kind of the Midwest, I would, always start your searches, online. Of course, the next best thing besides that is, having, talk to your hunting buddies, groups at your, archery shops, see where other people have been. If you're looking to go to Illinois or Ohio and somebody that's been there, talk to them, see what their experiences are, because a lot of times those guys, they probably looked at some of those same places that you may have on your list, and you can either know to, move forward and contact them, or check them off, as that may not fit the type of hunt that you're looking for. So definitely networking is huge. I feel in the initial process of looking to where you want to go. And like I said, if all else fails, internet or Facebook is such a great tool nowadays.
The internet's huge, right? I mean, all things happen through the internet. So you get lots of pictures and reviews and things like that. But let's say but it doesn't tell you everything. There's still some things you need to know, whether you're a newbie or somebody that's done this a couple times. There's probably some other things you need to think about. As an outfitter, and as somebody that has done this type of booking, what type of questions should we start asking ourselves as we're looking online, on Facebook, YouTube, wherever they have media, what should we be assessing in our heads?
I'm real big on, success and opportunity rate would be a couple of definitely the big ones.
Okay.
Obviously we go to hunt and we want to have a good hunt, but guys book or gals hunt or book hunts because they want to kill a trophy. So I need to know some statistics.
Okay. All right. What kind of statistics are we looking at?
Well, on success rate, I want to know actual numbers of success. So if I'm looking to book an archery hunt, I want to know out of how many guys, what percentage actually harvested something. And you can honestly tell a lot about an outfitter on how they answer this question.
Okay.
And it will kind of lead you the path, kind of the rest of the way if you decide you want to move forward with them or you want to check some others out. So how they answer success rate is very, very important.
Okay. If I say I have a success rate of 80 and I'm an outfitter, 80%, what does that mean?
Yeah, I would probably decide not to choose that outfitter based on that statistic is unless I'm talking fair chase here. On a fair chase hunt, 80% success rate, it's just too unrealistic.
Okay. All right. And why? Why is that too high? If you're a really good outfitter, why is that not out of the realm of possibility?
Well, at the end of the day, especially on the archery, it's still hunting. It's fair chase. You can't guarantee a kill. So, and just take Illinois, and a lot of states are this way, average between 20 and 25% success rate across the board on kills. So then I'm going to probably even minimize that a little more because you go to an outfitter to not just kill a deer, but to kill a trophy deer. So your success is going to go down even a little bit more. Like I said, it's still, free range. The deer have to, walk by. So many little factors have to go, right during a bow hunt. And you're only limited it to, maybe a 5-6 day hunt. So it's you have time is against you a little bit.
Okay. So, this brings up one interesting side note here. So when you think outfitter, you're thinking about going somewhere. And I want to dumb this down to the very basics of what an outfitter is. An outfitter is you're booking a hunt with somebody that's guaranteeing you a hunt on a piece of property. And that piece of property could be public or private, depending on where you're going. And those laws will vary depending upon state regulations on use laws, right? Or maybe it's somebody who owns a large tract of land and they only let their guys that they booked with come hunt. Can you elaborate on any of that stuff?
Yes. So, on the guaranteeing, I'm guaranteeing you a hunt. I can speak for myself here. All my ground is private. We can't do any public land. And so that's great. I have full, access to, thousands of acres of lease land that I lease for the sole purpose of, to outfit on. That's basically the guarantee. I am managing it. I am setting it up. I'm doing all the legwork, the scouting, the trail cams, the food plots, the access, all the things that, go into play of setting up your property, for hunting just on a larger scale. So when you show up, all you have to do is, be confident in your equipment and, be ready to hunt.
Okay. And that's pretty universal no matter where you go.
Correct.
All right. Got it. I just wanted to really express exactly what outfitting means. Okay. All right. So you're saying that a success rate of 80% is a red flag. When does that percentage seem realistic? Like if you start, what number should you be hearing?
On success, Jay, honestly, anything under, 35%, I would say is pretty realistic. Me personally, I don't go on success rate. I could give you numbers because there's just so many factors. Success is a lot of my job. I like to say is to provide an opportunity at, harvesting, a trophy deer. But the success comes on, could be skill of the hunter, could be a bad shot, a non-ethical hit, that sort of thing. So anything under 35 is probably, is not unrealistic by any means. Okay. And I'm talking on the archery route, gun. It's very hard to predict that. Some guys may be higher success, but it's also what are they shooting as well.
Okay, and then, you've got factors against you, right? You've got your own skill set.
Yeah.
You've got your own presentation of the animal,
yeah.
that how they come into the set, whether your scent control, your the weather, the moon. I mean, all those things are going to play in, because you're going to book the hunt and you're not going to know what the weather's going to be that day until that week, and you're not going to know a whole lot about what to expect and what's going to get the deer on the feet versus things that keep deer not moving around until well after dark. Those are all things you can't control. So
correct.
Automatically, no matter where you hunt, even I would say even in a high fenced thing, you're not going to have a deer run by your stand every hour and get a shot, right? That's not how it works. This is real life. This is how real hunting works. No matter where you go, you're still up against challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, they're even in a high fence, and I can't really speak for it because, I don't run it. I've never hunted it, and nothing against it by any means, but they're still wild animals, right. And there's just so many factors that are go into play. I always say I'll guarantee I'll work my butt off to provide you an opportunity. I'll provide you great accommodations, and I'll provide you great food. That's about all that I can guarantee you.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. What else should I be thinking about?
I want to know how many hunters an outfit takes.
Okay.
That's a very, very, important question for me.
Is that at one time, or is that over the course of the season, or both?
I actually want to know both. Okay. At one time, I'd like to know how many are going to be in camp. And so if I'm told, say 8 people, and I may actually, kind of after that say, okay, so are there going to be 2 people in my room? And, I want to know kind of my sleeping arrangements a little bit, is there 4 in a room? Am I going to be comfortable? How that kind of goes. And then I want to know, well, how many camps do they run? Because a lot of outfitters, they may run multiple camps. And so, say they got 4 camps of 8, that's 32 hunters at a week's time. Granted, if they got the ground to cover that, then that's great. But if they're a low acreage, kind of outfit and they're running 30 some hunters a week, I'd be a little hesitant just because of maybe the pressure factor.
And that was my next question, pressure. So, you might have a certain number of people going in that week, which I would really want to know, but I also want to know how much pressure you put on these deers in all these places all year long. That just seems like what I would want to know. I don't book a lot of, in fact, I've only booked a couple of outfitters over the course of my life. Generally, I'm hunting private or public lands in New Hampshire or other places where it's not like an outfitter. It's just groups of guys that know where the deer are, kind of know where the deer are, and we go in. But this is different. If I have a certain parcel of land that I have access to, if I'm spending my money, I'm going to want to know, as you just described, number of people I'm hunting with, if I don't know them for sure, how many, and then how much pressure you put on all these spots all year long.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is probably, I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of the meat and potatoes of it all. I want to know, because at the end of the day, I'm hunting 5 days. The last thing I want is to, go somewhere and it looks like, a motorcycle trail to the stand or candy wrappers at the bottom. You can just tell it's been hunted. And from just a confidence standpoint, that can really, lower a guy's morale if he does that. I've been in that situation on the hunting standpoint, and you're sitting all day long, and you just know it's not going to happen just because it's got that feel. So
Right.
pressure is very, very important.
Okay. What about acreage? I mean, we don't need a ton of acreage to kill a big buck, but I would want to know how many acres I would have access to and how it's all managed. And I also want to know if there are spots that are off limits at certain times that are opened up at other times, because as we know, pressure changes everything. The deer move around. They avoid the pressure spots. So as an outfitter or somebody booking an outfitter, what do I need to know about the acreage? And there are probably lots of other things that come into play that I'm not even thinking about. What should I be thinking?
Yeah, so definitely the amount of land definitely is huge, and that can tie back into the amount of hunters. You can kind of do a little math on that. But I want to know how much land they have and how they manage it from the standpoint of, what do they do for food plots? How do you have access trails? Do you predator hunt? How do you have sanctuaries set up? I'm going to ask all those kind of land management type questions. How do you hunt the early season? I may not even be interested at all in hunting the first week of October, but I want to know how that outfitter hunts the first week of October, because that'll tell a lot about his operations. Are you here where we're at? The mornings are kind of a no-go during the early season. You're bumping deer off food. You're putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on them that it's not needed. It's not hunting or it's not approaching it the right way, in my opinion. Where if I was calling an outfit and they're like, yeah, we get right after it. We're hunting, all the time. And I know that there's going to be so much pressure on them deer that them probably mature bucks are going to be somewhere else that first week of November. So that goes into play big time.
Right. Going back to the pressure thing, if some outfitter says, "Oh, we get right on it right away," that's the last thing I want to hear.
Yeah. Well, and it's I guess cliche statement. We're going to do whatever it takes to get you a good buck. And there's probably some truth to that everybody is, but at what expense are you doing it? So you only have so much land, regardless if you have 3,000 acres, 10,000 or 20,000. You can contaminate it really, really quickly, and that's the last thing you really want to do. So, access scent control is definitely another one. When you're out there working, in the summertime, or using scent control measures, and you can even, ask guy, well, what do you think about this? Get there. You already know the answer, but ask their opinion to kind of see what they say, to see if really their process and how they go about setting up their hunt or for hunters is kind of the same rule of thumb that you use, on your own piece of property, back home.
Okay.
So if those two philosophies align, then you're probably onto something as far as making your decision.
Okay. All right. So in the same aspect of counting, keeping track, using numbers, knowing the number of hunters that might be in the camp or have come in, and the number of acres you have to hunt, what's your percentage? Like what should you be asking for? What's a good measurement in your head of when is it okay to go and when is it not okay to go?
As far as the number of hunters, in camp, I guess
yeah. So if I got 10 hunters in camp and I've got 1,000 acres, is that a bad ratio? Is that a good ratio? I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably a little heavy. Okay. Honestly, I look at it kind of what I've done, and I guess, topography here is a little bit different of kind of the lay of our land because the amount of timber and ag fields in the mix. But I go 1 hunter per 100 acres, basically per season. So say I have, 3,300 acres. The max hunters I would even run is 33. And I don't even run that much, but that's me.
Okay.
Versus out, call it, Kansas way. The way their land lays, you have to have bigger chunks of land just because there's not as much timber. So, the acreage thing can be a little bit misleading, but I like the kind of 100 per 100 acres, per season rule. That's just kind of my thing.
Per season. Okay. All right. No, that makes sense. And what about the number of hunters in camp? Like, is there a ratio formula there too?
No, it's all kind of on your, the lodging setup of who you're contacting. If they can, I like to have, at least, 6 guys, and have 1 bathroom, 2 to a bed.
Okay.
That's pretty good. But it's all, every outfitter's lodging situation can be different, just on how big their facility is. Also, you got to look at a factor of, do they have guides? And the more hunters that they take, you would hope that they would have, more guides. So, the situation kind of back where you asked about, 10 hunters in camp. Well, if there's only, 1 guide, that's going to be very, very tough, for 1 guide to guide 10 people. So I want to know about the guides and their experience and kind of their guide to hunter ratio.
Gotcha. Okay. What's a good guide to hunter ratio?
I think 3 to 1, is pretty decent, for a whitetail.
3 guides to 1 hunter or 3 hunters to 1 guide?
3 hunters to 1 guide.
Okay.
Here on a whitetail hunt, and even really, you probably could go to 4, but no more than really that. As you know, when you're doing a lot of stand hunting, for whitetail, and at the end of the day, you're just kind of, it's drop off, pick up, unless, somebody, hits a deer or something of that nature.
Okay.
It's not like you're out spot stalking out west or anything.
Right. Okay. All right. So we've talked about percentage of success rate that you should probably quiz the outfitter on. We've talked about number of hunters in camp. We've talked about the ratio of hunters to acreage that they can hunt over the course of a season. What else should I be thinking about? What else should I be asking my outfitter as I'm trying to book this thing?
Well, one is I want to know their, equipment that they use.
Okay.
I want to know what type of stands. If I'm going, especially on a bow hunt, I want to know, the stand heights on them, shot distance, shooting lanes, any type of accessories that I'm going to need. The stands, I think the type of stands, and I guess brand is important here, and I'm not a brand guy per se. I'm a quality guy, but I want to make sure that they're using stands that are comfortable, that I can sit all day long in. I can put 12, 13 hours in.
Okay.
Because you hunt here a lot, in West Central Illinois during the pre-rut and rut. You're logging some long hours, and the last thing I want to do is, sit in the stand and halfway, through my day, my back's hurting, I'm sore, I just can't stand it. So I want to make sure that they have stands that are quality. Also if there's any, physical limitations, I want to ask if they can, accommodate that, stuff of that nature.
Okay. Shot distance. You mentioned shot distance. What am I looking for there? Am I thinking bow shots, gun shots? What types of things do I need to assess as far as shot distance?
What I want to know here is I'm trying to gauge a little bit, 2 things here. How far that I need to practice. If I'm used to hunting, cedar swamps of northern Michigan where you can't get a shot past 25 yards, and that's all I ever practice. And I can come down here to West Central Illinois and, get a shot 50 or 60 if I'm hunting a field edge. I need to kind of know that. But also it tells me a little bit about how they set up their spots. Are you setting me up to see a lot of deer? Are you shooting or setting me up to, get an opportunity to harvest one? So pick the brain a little bit on that, on the decision that goes into where they hang a stand, why they hang it there. Will speak volumes about a place.
Okay. Are you asking questions about like how those shot areas are set up? Like how many shooting lanes I have? What's the thickness? When was the last trimmed or groomed? Is it a brand new stand? Is it an old stand? What are your opinions on those things?
Yeah, shooting lanes, for example. I'm not personally a big trimmer. I like to have my lanes, but I love to have cover.
Yep.
And, if I go hang a new set in, call it, let's say August, things look a lot different in November. I'm a minimal trimmer. There'll be, plenty of shooting lanes. Don't get me wrong. But I like as much cover as well as possible, as you definitely don't want to, stick out like a sore thumb.
Right.
And like I said, when the leaves stuff come down or even a hunter, we're as outfitters are not perfect, and they may say, hey, everything was great. There was just this one little limb, and it didn't take them from harvesting anything, but you may want to, trim that one little limb, and I'll kind of bookmark that. And before I was going to use that stand again or something, I'll go in there and trim it. Like I said, you can. I've sat stands a lot of times personally hunting, and it's like you always second, I could have done this different or trimmed this branch. It's just continuously getting better.
What about the stand heights? I mean, is there a number that's too low or a number that's too high?
I'm an 18 to 22 feet, believer.
Okay.
And that's me personally, and just especially guiding guys. Sometimes you have the fear of height factor. You have shot angle factor. Is there times you need to go higher than 22 feet? Yeah, absolutely. The terrain kind of dictates you doing that. I would never go lower than 18 feet on an archery set. If you're putting a shooting house or box blind up or something like that for a gun or crossbow, lower is fine because you're enclosed. But I like that 18 foot or higher number is kind of my magic number.
Okay. Accessories. I love accessories. And sometimes I'll go to a place that not necessarily an outfitter, but sometimes, my buddies rig these stands up, and they're awesome. I mean, they've got everything you could ever want going in. And sometimes they don't. But if I'm paying for it, if I'm going there and I'm booking a place, I'm going to want to make sure there's pull ropes and lifelines, and so I can get home after the hunt too, hooks, those types of things. I mean, what other accessories should I be asking? And does it matter if they're in some stands and not in others, or should they just be always there?
I feel they should always be there. So I can only speak for my operation. Is every stand has a lifeline, a pull rope, and then it'll have an easy hanger, and then one or two accessory hooks, or maybe an accessory hook. And there was a limb I cut that, the end can act as a hook, something of that nature, just to be able to hang my pack and stuff like that. And I do it that way to just eliminate, a guy getting there, having to fool in his pack, at 4:30 in the morning, digging around, screwing in hooks, unscrewing hooks. And it's just, I want the guy to be able to get to the tree, pull his bow up, sit down and hunt. A lot of places don't do that, honestly. And they have their reasonings behind it, but I like to, kind of offer everything, just so you don't have to worry about it. But I wouldn't, it wouldn't be a deterring factor for me as long as the guy said, was open and then, said, yeah, we have lifelines, everything, but, you make sure. And I always carry that stuff in my pack just in case, because, people can take them. It could, who knows what can happen.
Right.
But, the attention to detail on doing those little things go a long way, in my opinion.
Okay. So this kind of brings up another thought. So let's say you get a call from somebody say, I want to film my hunt. Maybe they're professional, maybe they're just amateur, but they want to film their hunt, and they want to bring another guy in there to do the filming, or at the very minimum, they want to have some kind of a camera limb so that they can mount their camera. Is that something that is like, if you're asking those questions and the guy says, no, we don't do any of that, is that a turnoff? Is that a red flag? Or or should that outfitter be saying, yeah, we can make that happen? Or is that just being a yes man?
I think it really boils down to the outfitter. I've had guys film, both with a cameraman and with a, kind of, self-filming their own stuff. And I don't mind it, but I'm very, very cautious, especially on the self-filming portion, unless you have a lot of experience. If this is your first outfitted hunt, you've saved up, you had to, beg your wife or husband to go on this hunt, I would not try to reduce my opportunity by messing with a camera that I may not have, I don't have that much experience in doing. It's just, like I said, bow hunting, there's so many factors, and last thing I want is that opportunity to come in front of you and you're worried about getting it on film. That's kind of my take on it. I do ask, if guys want to do that or they want to bring somebody, long as I've got availability to film, let me know ahead of time, because it is more work. You got to hang camera sets, 2 sets, and you got to make sure the angles are right. So it makes it more challenging, for sure. But if you're upfront and honest with the outfitter of what your intentions are, I personally don't have a problem with it.
Okay. And what if, and I know the outfitters know these lands like the back of their hands, but what if that hunter says, okay, I found this spot, and for whatever reason the deer are coming out over there? Can he go set up another stand? Can they set up one of their own stands, whatever the situation be? Is it a mobile kind of situation?
Yeah, that's a great question to ask. Me personally, no. But some guys may allow it. I take a lot of pride in setting up, my setups, and you're paying for a guided hunt. So you have to trust the guide, that they hung that stand in the right location. And, the deer can travel one way, one day and right by that tree the next. And I've done it personally where I consider myself a pretty aggressive hunter, where I've had my stand and 2 days in a row, the deer did the same thing and moved my climber 100 yards. And that buck was 20 yards in front of the tree I just moved from. And I had that situation kind of happen this year. It took 3.5 days to kill one buck, and we sat in the same stand instead of moving. So I'm always open to feedback. It's kind of that, dinner time, sit around and talk. What are your ideas? What are you thinking here? But the odds are too, I've personally, and most outfitters, if they've scouted enough, where them deer, you're seeing them deer, they probably got a set up pretty close to it or around it where, they can get you into, as long as that wind direction is right.
Okay. All right. So the next question is, okay, so they've got stands there. Mm-hmm. How how am I going to know if they are educated enough, informed enough to know where to place the stand to begin with? Maybe it's a new operation, maybe it's an old operation, but maybe the stands are placed there just because they need another stand. They didn't think about if that was a good spot or not. What kind of questions should I be asking that outfitter about stand placement?
I'd first of all, I'd ask, how many stands do you have? Is definitely a good question. Me, I'm a lock-on guy, so I do have ladder stands just because some guys like hunting ladder stands. They don't like the lock-ons or for whatever, which is fine. I have to, being an outfitter, you kind of have to accommodate a full gamut. But personally, being a lock-on hunter, I want to know, how many lock-ons do you have? How many options? And then I'll ask, how do you decide where to, hang a stand? And so I want to hear access. How do I get to and from that stand? And it's just not, walking a trail or walking a creek bed. It's wind direction. That wind, if they're very scent conscious and you hear them talk wind a lot or scent, getting in and out undetected, you're starting to feel a little bit of comfort. So, getting into a location, getting out, with the proper wind direction, cover is another thing. I want to know that I'm concealed, not skylined. Ability to make multiple shots, especially, archery, how many which ways can I move? Can I shoot? Would be a huge factor. So those, at the end of the day, it's wind direction. And then I want to know my reconnaissance. I want to know, how much, trail cam pics have you gotten on this area? What bucks are moving through here? What's the deer sign? That sort of thing. If a guy's going to decide to put you in a stand and you don't have much history of that area, it's not very, I guess, you're not too excited going into the next day.
Okay. Gotcha. All good points. Very good points. Let's take a little break and check in with our friends at Rackology. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Jason Selman.
Rackology Deer Supplement and Attractant, developed through years of intense scientific research, comes a product that puts it all in one bag. Superior attractant, scientifically formulated vitamins and minerals, and all at a much better price. To get yours today, please check out Rackology.org for a list of dealers. Rackology, how can you afford not to use it? Everything deer need, all in one bag.
And now back to our conversation with Jason Selman from Hero Shot Outfitters. I used to belong to a club in North Carolina, and they had we had a hunting restriction antler size. Like, it had to fit. If it fit inside of the 5-gallon bucket, you were fined. Is this the same principle, or are there other types of structures like that when you go to these outfitters? And if you don't meet their minimum requirement, should you expect some kind of a fine, or on top of the money you already paid?
Yeah, so every outfitter is kind of different in how they kind of handle everything, but kind of across, especially typically in the Midwest here, there is antler or age restrictions. Age is a tough one, but it kind of goes hand in hand with your antler restriction. Is, you could have a 6.5-year-old deer and he scores 110 inches. That's a good deer to kill. I mean, that's better than shooting a 150-inch glass 3.5-year-old. So by asking this question, you're going to get a couple of things. One is antler and age restrictions. Tell me how they manage their property. What's their minimum? If their minimum is, kind of typical is 130 or 135 is typically your restrictions. Some do 140. The higher their restrictions are as far as their antlers go, then probably the better chances are of you killing that 170, 180 inch buck, because they really, really focus on letting them them younger bucks mature. If they have less restrictions, then probably you got to kind of lower your expectations of what you're really willing to shoot. Because a lot of those 130-inch deer are probably getting taken. So it's kind of what your agenda is. If, I always say you're subject to your geography. I'm fortunate to live right here in a pretty good area for deer hunting, but it hadn't always been that way. I grew up hunting northern Michigan, where you shot 10-inch 8-point. You were a hero at the local gas station. So I get it.
No doubt.
So it's all it's all kind of what you're looking for. And like I said, that just kind of goes hand in hand with, talking to that outfitter. The guy calls me and he says, the biggest buck I've ever killed is, 110 inches. I'll be happy with 130-inch deer, 135-inch deer. Then I know that going in that guy is looking for this. I'm going to do my best to put him on that, versus the guy that's killed big deer, maybe lives in an area where they grow big or has been on some other hunts, and he only wants 150 or better. Then, we're going to have that conversation that, well, as long as you're, the chances of you going home without a kill is going to be higher than the person that's, going after the 130. We're on the same page and the expectations are clear. Then, I'll do my best to put him on that 150-inch deer. But I think it's best to set those expectations up front and, be honest and open with your outfitter as far as your agenda as well.
I've never been fined before, but it raises the question, like, okay, you put that hunter in the stand, a smaller buck came by, they misjudged or whatever, or they just decided it was time. They shoot a deer that's smaller than the restrictions, if there is one. And you now have to have that conversation with that hunter to say, hey, you just paid me a bunch of money to come here, but now I got to charge you more money because you didn't shoot the right deer. How does that go? I mean, what is that something that?
Yeah,
I just can't imagine having that conversation.
Yeah. So me personally, outfitting, I'm not a finer per se, and I've never fined anybody, and I will never want to take that thrill away from somebody. Judging a deer is very, very difficult. And you get excited, you spend a lot of money, maybe some pressures from home. You want to go again, so you better come home with something. And, mistakes happen, especially with a bow. You get low light conditions. You only have a split second. It had a 12-inch G2, big body, and you shoot. Long as the hunter's happy, at the end of the day, I'm happy. The fines are more there as a deterrent, and I'm just speaking for me, is the last thing. I always say, don't pass something the first day, you'll shoot the last. So the guy that paid a lot of money and spent a lot of money on a license, it's down to the last day, and he's just got to go home with something, I'd rather you shoot a doe. So that's kind of, I put it there to, I set my restrictions, but I can honestly say that the smaller deer that we have killed, the guys that they're really, really, they were happy, but felt bad, and they're coming back to kill, something bigger, or it was just an accident. So,
gotcha. Okay.
But there are, I know for a fact there are places that they will fine you, and you want to be a little bit, cautious of that, or be prepared for it, I guess, if there's a fine in place, then do be prepared to pay it. But, no, at the end of the day, if the hunter's happy, I'm happy.
Okay. All right. What else would you ask an outfitter?
I definitely want to know, if they have guides, do they allow them to hunt the property? That's kind of a big one, and kind of see their response off of that, if they let them hunt.
What if they do?
Because I'd be very cautious.
Okay.
I think it's a kind of a case by case situation on that. Be it maybe, I let my guides hunt, but it's only late season and it's just really doe management. They don't shoot any bucks. They have their own property to do that. Doe management would be one thing. Predator control, but as far as watch out for. The guy drops you off at the stand and he's got his bow or gun in there too, and he's going to sit in the stand somewhere as well. I've heard some kind of horror stories on that, stuff that happening. So that's another thing where you can use social media, look at Facebook, look at posts. And a lot of these outfitters, especially bigger ones, they'll have their guides on there, telling a little bio.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the odds are they have Facebook and kind of, oh, well, he killed this deer, and then you pull the outfitter up and, oh, well, there's a deer. Well, he just told me the guides don't hunt, so that's kind of a red flag there as well.
Okay. All right. So I guess one of the things that, and this goes for any type of retail, anything, service thing, if you're a repeat customer, that's a good thing, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it most definitely is. And, it's in outfitting, it's I don't want to say it's tougher, but you get guys that will go on hunts every year. I have guys that are basically, they've done it and they will be with me for a certain week, until life changes one way or the other.
Okay.
And some guys will hunt with you. It's their dream hunt, and they may have small children or have other dream hunts they want to do, but they'll come back. But there should always, definitely during the prime, I always say the prime area, because it's always that late October, first few weeks in November where guys really want to hunt. There should always be some repeat customers, coming. If an outfitter takes, 8 guys a week, and you call him now and he's got 5-6 openings for the first week in November, and he's been around a while, it would be a red flag to me. So, you want to be a little cautious of that. And I just throw that week out there because that just seems to always be the buzz week, is the first week in November.
Okay. All right. What other questions come to mind?
For me, as you cover all the hunting stuff, because that's really, when I book a hunt, that's what I want to know is, how they do the hunting. But you want to know, walk me through a day in camp. What can I expect? From the time I show up there, walk me through a day. And, mine would be, wake you up at, 4:30, have a little breakfast, make sure stand assignments are still good. Just depending if, you had any weather changes or anything, overnight. And then, get guys to the stand, and then check in with them. If they hunt all day long, they're going to have a lunch. I'm going to pick you up, at the designated pickup spot, I call it dark 30. And then we're going to go back and we're going to sit around and unwind and have a home cooked meal and then do it all over again. So that's kind of I want to have kind of a typical day rundown, kind of know a little bit about my lodging. It seems like anymore, it's more and more important, the Wi-Fi or cell phone signal.
Okay.
Do I have access to it? Especially, if you're in a job where you're getting away from a week, but you're always tied to your job, where you may need to catch up on some emails or something at night, if that is needed. If I do, fortunate enough to harvest something, trophy care, a lot of outfitters will work with a processor, or they may quarter it. Do you cape it? Do you have taxidermists? That sort of thing. I want to know about, just meals. And, if you have, any type of, food allergies, anything like that, you definitely want to let your outfitter know that.
Okay.
Is typically outfitters, they're feeding for, 6, 8, 10, 30 people. So definitely let them know that. And then transportation, to and from the stands. This is a big one, just because I've been in situations before and I didn't personally mind it as far as driving myself to a farm. But I don't guide that way. I don't have anybody drive. I take them to and from the stands. But that's something I want to, ask. Hey, will you be guiding me, or am I going to have to, drive myself, to the stand or to the farm? So I want to ask that as well.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I guess going back to the question about, is there a fine for shooting a lesser buck? What if you shot and you didn't put a good shot on, but you wounded the animal, or let's say you kill an animal that it's the biggest deer on the property? Are there additional fees that you'd have to pay, or what happens in the case where you wounded something? I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, for the most part, you draw blood. That's considered a kill policy, and just because of a couple of factors, into that, it's the last thing from an outfitter is you want somebody, you may be taking a marginal shot or a low percentage shot just because I'm out an outfitter, I'm going to get another crack, or we'll see what happens. So to kind of eliminate that, that element. And at the end of the day, we have to protect our herd. We only have so many, running around, and you give, some people 2-3 chances, and even if they are, successful, that can taking 30 hunters a year, it'd be like taking 60 hunters a year, and that kind of defeats that management purpose. As far as the trophy fees go, if it's legal and, of course, above the restrictions, then there's no trophy fees. But it's something you do want to ask, because, some places will put restriction, 130 to 150 is X amount of dollars, and, they kind of bracket it by score. So you may see a low cost hunt, and then they have a very high trophy fee. So, definitely, ask those questions.
Okay. All right. Life comes up, right? Sometimes you book these hunts with the greatest intent, and something happens and you can't make it. What should I be thinking about when it comes to cancellation policies and when funds are due?
Yeah, so typically outfitter is going to ask for a 50% deposit, and then they are going to either have you pay the 50% when you get to camp, or have you send 50% before, call it September 1st. And they all will have a cancellation policy because of that. Mine is, I think it's before, cancel before June 1st, I'll refund you your deposit back. If it's any time after June 1st, then I take that 50% and I will roll it to another hunt. And it's kind of a gray area, because hard times come, or a family emergency, or for some bad reason. At the end of the day, I'm going to refund the guy's money. But it's kind of a case by case. The thing that as an outfitter, we have to protect ourselves is we have leases to pay for, and a guy calls a week before he's supposed to come in November, and he can't come. Well, we lost that revenue, and it's very tough to a guy to get on a plane or in his car and fill that spot. So just communicate with your outfitter. They all kind of handle that differently. But today we understand, or I understand.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, so you've asked some great questions. You've identified some potential red flags. What else can you do that would make you feel comfortable to go ahead and book this thing or not book this thing? Is there anything else that you can do besides the things we've discussed that can help you decide that, yes, this is a good idea or a bad idea?
Yeah, I think a big one, and I think a lot of guys miss the boat on this, and I don't know if it's a comfort thing or just don't know, is to ask for references. That's just a big one. And when you ask them, I just don't want to, talk to the guys that have been successful. I want to talk to the unsuccessful guys. Hey, they may give you names, or some may post them online. I'm not sure. But give me 3 names that have killed, 3 names that haven't. One thing on that, I guess, to be a little leery about is, some places may, cherry pick the reference. It's like if you're going to, for a new job, you're going to put, good references on your resume. But anymore with social media, if they have a Facebook page that the outfitter does, you're going to see guys that have hunted with them just by their comments or kill pictures. And you can reach out to them on Facebook as well and kind of eliminate the outfitter, giving that info to you.
Okay.
I think that's definitely a big one. Your review sites are out there. Both site is a very good one to find out reviews. I like it personally because the hunter has to put a little bit of effort into, signing up, creating an account through both site to go review that outfitter. So both sites are a very good one as well.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
And then another thing, if you're on the fence and you just don't know, or you kind of want to, check it out, if you're a turkey hunter, if maybe you're a beginner, or maybe you're, take turkey hunting pretty serious, or regardless, think about booking a turkey hunt with them. They're typically a lot cheaper than a whitetail hunt. It's less time. You can learn a lot about the terrain of where they're hunting. A lot of times you'll be able to shed hunt with them and kind of, learn the operation. And a 3-day turkey hunt, you'll get a pretty good feel on if it's somewhere you want to, go deer hunting. So definitely, take that opportunity if it presents itself.
Very cool. That's a good point. I had not thought about that one, but yeah, if you can just go turkey hunt or shed hunt, and they're good with that, it gives you a good feel for whether it would be a good time to go back in the fall to deer hunt. Very good.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're close, and it just depends how close you are in time, to the outfitter. Don't hesitate to it's a lot of work on the, labor side of being an outfitter, field work, food plots and stuff like that. And don't hesitate to offer to come up in the summertime. Hey, I love doing food plots. Do you need a hand doing that? Offer to even lend a hand. It may help a little bit on the cost of the hunt, but you can also kind of get a feel of how they work and what they're doing.
Gotcha.
As well. So
yep, great idea.
That's another thing you can. Yep.
Gotcha. Let's if we could just kind of, we talked about some red flags, but let's kind of summarize the big red flags that you should say run away when you hear these things. What are some of the red flags that really stick out in your head?
Well, definitely, just kind of inconsistent statistics, on your, success and opportunity rates are a big one.
Okay.
If a guy won't give me any references, if they get, and I've had it before, they get defensive or, for whatever reason, they just won't, definitely would run on that. Cost is another thing, and, it's everybody has a budget and what they want to spend on a hunt. And anymore, we know hunting isn't cheap. but be very leery of cheap prices. If you get what you pay for, and if it's too good to be true, it probably is. It may be a situation where you really should go or want to choose this outfitter, but this one is less money, so you choose it on price alone. Maybe consider, saving up a little more and going to that one you really wanted to the next year instead of going to the lesser one. You didn't feel good at the beginning. You're not going to feel good leading up to it. And then it kind of, you have a regretful outfitter experience and you kind of fall into that pool. Oh, I went to an outfitter. It was miserable. I'd never do that again. So definitely look at the price.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense.
Poor, reviews, anymore. And I can say this, I guess, from the outfitter standpoint, is we are in a service industry. And at the end of the day, it's hard to put it, I guess, bluntly, please everybody, So with that being said, if a guy has a bad review or two, it could have been an isolated incident. Don't let that deter you if you get a good feeling. However, if you read more bad than good, I'd probably stay away.
Okay.
It's just, it's something's not adding up, in my opinion. You're a lot of times, especially, putting pictures out there, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. And so with social media, the amount of pictures that are out there of, trail cams and harvest photos and stuff like that, I want to see, all right, you got this buck on, how many bucks did you get on camera during the summer that you actually harvested in the fall? That would be a big one to me.
Okay.
So if you're selling me on my chance to, there's a good opportunity, I'm going to kill a 160-inch or bigger deer, and I don't see one picture of a 160-inch deer, that would be a red flag to me.
Okay.
And then just, communication, I feel, is so important. If you call an outfitter and they don't get back to you, and, certain times of year is a little bit more difficult than others, especially, during hunting season, you're running guys right now, a lot of outfitters are doing the show circuit, stuff like that, but they're not calling you back, or you're not getting email responses, no texting or anything like that. You're not starting off on the right foot.
Gotcha.
So if you get an uneasy feeling at the beginning, I would probably, kind of check that one off your list and go on.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. So there's still a variable here, and it's the hunter, right? You're an outfitter. The hunter still has some responsibilities here. Yeah, they've done their homework, made a good decision. They've, you got good references. They answered all the questions. The outfitter answered all the questions correctly. But if you walk in there and you don't do certain things as the hunter, because there's still a physicality thing here that the hunter's still got to live up to. It's not, they're not just, it's not like you're walking in the grocery store and buying a piece of meat that the grocery store provided for you, that the butcher provided for you. You got to go get it, right? So there's some things that you have to do as a hunter. What are some of the things that you tell your hunters before they arrive?
Yeah, so kind of, one thing, just kind of at, I guess, the booking stage, or, learning or trying to decide where you're going to go. If you're prepared to book a hunt, and you tell that outfitter you're going to go with them, I would say to follow through on that. And if you were to change your mind, just call the outfitter, tell them, don't string them along, out of just, pure respect, for the outfitter. Is at the end of the day, they earn their living, and there's guys that could be wanting that spot and they're holding it. So definitely you follow through or communicate that, hey, this year's not going to work, but, maybe next year. Practice, and be prepared for your hunt. Don't show up to camp, haven't shot your bow in, a month, or you just got this new pack of broadheads at the store here in town and you're going to try them out. Practice and be prepared. I can kind of flip that around. That type of feeling would give an outfitter the same as if a hunter showed up. Jay, you showed up to hunt with me, and I said, "Oh, great. Well, let's unload your bags and we're going to go out here. It's 4:00. I'm going to hang your stand that you're going to sit in tomorrow." You'd probably be like, what's going on here? So definitely do your part and being prepared.
Okay.
It's so important, to go through the, just the process, practice. And then big thing's attitude. You gotta have a good attitude, stay positive. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's kind of a big thing. If you are the guys that have probably the best success are the ones that they have this kind of persona. They're just happy to be here. And they come back and they had the greatest day hunting. They seen 22 songbirds, 15 chipmunks, 3 turkeys dance. I mean, it's just like they're writing this book for you. And then, they get to the last day and they hadn't killed it and they're fine. And they kill, a 150-inch buck, versus the guy that every day I got to kill something. What are we doing? And they put so much unnecessary pressure on themselves that, it actually works against them.
Gotcha.
So just kind of relax. You're in camp with, this could be guys that you've never been around, haven't met, different personalities, just try to stay positive, and try to keep a good camp atmosphere.
Okay.
And then, at the end of the day, probably, just let the guide do his job. Trust the guide. You paid money to go hunt somewhere. You have to trust that guide that, he is going to, do his best to provide you that opportunity that you're looking for. So you have to trust his knowledge. And it's okay to talk or to, run ideas by him or ask questions. There's definitely nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, trust him. Now, there may be a situation where it's just a bad experience that if the guide's picking you up and you're not getting to your stand till an hour after daylight, I would probably bring that to the owner or, his boss's attention.
Okay.
But if he's doing everything in his power and right, kind of let him do his thing.
Gotcha.
And kind of in my experiences, the ones that struggle the most is if you're typically hunting by yourself, you hunt public land, you've never been to an outfitter, you just do your own thing. And that's how you've always done it. You sleep in your truck. That's just the hunter you are, which is great. They a lot of times have the hardest time kind of adapting to that. Because
you just described me. You just described me, Jason.
Yeah, it's great. They're also a lot of times the most passionate. It just oozes out of them. They're like, yeah, I seen this buck. Let's go get him. I got my climber. I'll go, set up at midnight. I mean, they're just so aggressive, so definitely I love the passion, but at the end of the day, just got to kind of trust the process.
Okay. All right. Very good. I'm going to skip the rapid fires here just for the sake of time.
Okay.
Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show and walking us through that process. It's a process that's foreign to me, and I'm sure is foreign to a lot of guys and gals that would like to try this at some point. And certainly, the last piece there, we kind of described how I hunt now. knowing that going in is going to help me a lot to adjust quickly. So where can we find more information about you and your outfitting service if we've created more questions than answers, or if people just want to come check you out because you came on the show and you're authentic and you kind of spelled it out on what things you should be looking for? Where can we find more about you?
Yeah, so, probably the best place would be definitely Facebook, Hero Shot Outfitters. Check out our page there. That's where we do most of our updating. And then any questions, even if it's not coming to hunt with us, but if you're looking to book an outfitted hunt somewhere, feel free to reach out to us. And then we do have a website, www.heroshotoutfitters.com. And there you can, email us as well. So if you have any questions, definitely more than happy to help anybody out.
Awesome. Jason, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure having you on the show to talk about this stuff. It's always been a curiosity of mine. So thanks for filling that blank.
Thank you.
Well, I thought that was a pretty good exploration of what to do and what not to do and things you need to look out for when you're thinking about booking your outfitter hunt, whether you're first timer or second timer, somebody that maybe had a bad experience and didn't ask these types of questions, and all the red flags that are associated with those things that you really want to think about when you're going to spend your dollar booking a hunt and you're not doing it on a DIY self-guided hunt and you're spending your money. These are the things that we want to know about, and appreciate Jason Selman coming on board to kind of walk us through all those things that he thinks should be done, not only as an outfitter himself, but as somebody that used to book outfitters. And these are some of the things that came from his experiences. Dusty, where can we find you when you're not hanging out here in the studios with me?
Shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. You can look me up on Instagram and Twitter @ChasingAntler, Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. Jay, where can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
Likewise, you can shoot me an email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com, and you can visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/bigbuckregistry. We're also on Twitter, which is twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. We are also on Instagram, instagram.com/bigbuckregistry, and YouTube, which is youtube.com/bigbuckregistry. On YouTube, you can listen to all of our podcasts in their entirety. As far as videos are concerned, it's a boring video, but the audio content is there, so you can actually listen to our podcast. You can also listen to all of our live shows that we've done on Thursday nights when we do them, and we've gone back and re-interviewed a lot of our previous guests we had on the show just to put a face to a voice. Let's put it that way. You can always listen to our show on other places as well, not just YouTube. We're found on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. And if you would like to submit a buck to our page for consideration and be featured on our page in front of 250,000 diehard deer hunting fans, all you have to do is go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck, and all of the instructions will be right there. I think that's pretty much everywhere we're at. I think that's a wrap, Dusty.
That's a whole lot of big buck, Jay.
Sure is. I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.